Hello, this is Gabin from Design Tribe, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how I created this poster in Photoshop from start to finish. Do well to watch the video to the end, for there are a lot of tips and tricks that I'm going to be showing you in this video. Let's get straight to it. First thing we want to do is to create a new project, and in this project I'm going to be using a 20 by 15 size, and my resolution remain at 300. I'm just going to click on OK. Once that is created, the first thing I want to do is to create this background, and the two colors that I used to create this background is this brown color and the bright yellow color. So I'm just going to go here and use my gradient tool and select a gradient from these and tweak the color. So here I'm going to change this color to a brownish kind of color, something like this, brownish orange kind of color. I think I need more saturation. Okay, once that is selected, I'm going now to select a yellowish color, something like this. Okay, once that is selected, I'll just push the slider to the right to make the oranges more dominant, and I think I want this to become more darker, so I'll just bring it down like this. Okay, once that is created, just click OK here, and here I'll click on this reverse, so it reverses the order of the gradient. So the bright color is now displayed below and the dark color is above. So when I click on OK, next thing I want to do is to bring in some images and add to the background to give it some texture. So I'm just going to drag this image and I bring into my background like this. Once I drop that image into it, I'm going to change the blend mode into soft light, and once it is set to soft light, I will increase the size to something like this and increase this here. Once that is done, I'm going to add a mask to that layer and use a black color. Select my brush tool and change my color to a black color. Increase the size of my brush like this, and I'll just paint on this area and eliminate this part of the design. And now I'm just going to reduce my opacity down to something like this. Yeah, I just want it to appear faint in the background. Okay, once that is created, the next thing I did was to bring in the stripes. So I'm just going to go to where my stripes are located, just drag it and drop into my projects like this. Increase the size of the stripes like this, so it actually fits into the design. So I want to zoom out and increase this like this. Okay, reposition. Yeah, just position it like that. Increase this like this, and that is okay. And now for this layer, I'm going to add a mask to it, and then since it's blue in color, I'm going to add a solid color layer above it and make it a white color and clip it on this stripe layer like that. So the color of this solid color adjustment layer is now applied on the stripes like that, and I'm just going to drop the opacity down a little like this, about this level. That is perfect for me. So I'll just zoom in again like this, and the next thing I did was to create this text. I'm going to add this light later on, so we are going to be creating this text at the moment. So to add the text, what I'm going to do is just to click on a new layer like this, and I'll select my text tool, and I'll just click and paste in my text like that. Okay, once that is pasted in, I'm going to move it to this point, and I'll just create a duplicate of that layer, bring it down, and I type in the remaining part of the text. The text is in French, guérison, like that. And I'm going to select this whole layer, Ctrl C, and I reduce the size like this. And I'm going to take OK. Once that is selected, I'm going to realign it like this under this one. Make sure it's aligned straight like that. I'll increase the size a little again to something like this. Okay, once that is done, I will just move the text a little closer to this other one like this, and I'm going to select both layers and I bring it down a little like this. And then the next thing I want to type here is Tittle d'image, so I'll just use another font. For this one, I think I use Bebas, and I'll type in Tittle d'image up here. Oh, sorry, undo. I'll type in Tittle d'image. Reduce the font size to 16. Change my fonts to Bebas like that. Now type in Tittle d'image like that. Select everything. Now bring it up here like this. So I want to add some extra space in between the text like this. Let me just check the spelling. Okay, the spelling is good. So Tittle d'image like that. And the next thing I did was to create the stripe on the text. So I will select this, but before I do that, I'm just going to change the color to this bright yellow color like that. And once that is done, I'll use my shape tool, and I create a rectangular shape with this text like this. So once the rectangular shape is created like that, I'll now add a mask to it like this. Once the mask is added, I will just bring it down a little so it aligns with the text, and I'll use my brush to make sure my brush is a soft brush with hardness all down, and I'll reduce the size like that, and I'll just paint here like this. Paint here like this, and Ctrl C, reduce the size, the thickness of the line like that. Okay, once that is done, I may move it up a little like that. And the next thing is to come up with this Sundays of grace and healing. So I'm just going to type that in down here. Okay, so that is done. I'll just select my move tool, and I move this text to this position like this. Ctrl C, I'll reduce the size a little like that. And for this one, what I'm going to do now is to create another shape behind this. So I'll just create a new layer, use my shape to make sure it's from this point. I'll just draw like this, give it that bright yellow color like that. Once that is done, I'll change the Sunday text and I will use this brown color from the background like that. And once that is done, I'll add a mask to this layer, use my brush, and I'll just paint on these edges like this to fade it out a little. Just paint again here to fade this part out. Okay, so select both and I move them like this to the center. Okay, once that is done, now I need to add some textures to these grays and healing text here, grass, a garrison. So before I do that, I'll need to add a layer above this. I'll use the ellipse tool, make sure these layers are not selected. Undo this, add a new layer. I use my ellipse tool and I'll create a circle like this here, and when that is created, I will just use my text to change my color to a bright yellow color, and I type in the and symbol here like this, and I'll bring it up into this. Ctrl T, increase the size to something like this. I think that is good, and I'll just position it here. Now what I want to do is to bring in some gradients that I'll apply on my text. So I'll just drag this gradient and I drop in here like this. Once that is done, I'll clip it on this text. Ctrl J to duplicate. I bring it on the other text and I clip it on it like that. Ctrl T, bring it up, and once that is positioned like that, I'm just going to blur these two layers which I just added now, the layers with the textures. So I'm just going to go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and I'm going to increase my blur to something like that. Now take OK, go to this other one, filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and apply the same level of blur to it like that. And the next thing I did was to add a drop shadow to my text. So I'll just select this garrison text and I come down to drop shadow and I add a drop shadow like that. Once it's added, I will just tweak it. I'll reduce my distance like this, reduce the spread like this, and I reduce the size to something like this, and I think that is okay for this. And I'll go to the gray text grass. I think this is it. Just double click on it and add the drop shadow. So the same drop shadow I applied on this one has been applied to it. So I'll just take OK. So at this point, we want to add the logo of the ministry. So I'll just go to where the logo is found, drag, and I drop it at the top right hand corner of it. Oops, drag it out of this layer, make sure it's right above like that, and I'll go back and clip this layer on gray, so it distorted the clipping mask that I created there. So once that is done, I'll just select the logo again, Ctrl T, reduce the size of the logo to something like this, and drop it up here, drop it slightly like this. Okay, and now I'm done with this text layer, the headline text. So I'm just going to group everything in that layer like this. It's good to group everything together, so when you're looking for particular layer that belongs to that group, it's easy to navigate through. So I'm just going to group everything like that, and I'll call this text. Okay, once that is done, Control T for transform. I'll just rotate it slightly like this, not too much, but just slightly like that. And once the rotation is done, I'll just move it up a little like that, position it here. Okay, once that is done, the next thing I did was to bring in these lights. I brought in these lights to create some balance. So I'm going to navigate to where the lights are found. So this is the first light I used. I just brought it into my project like that. Take it right down so it's on the background layer. So Control T like that, and I blow it up completely like this, just to make it really big. Okay, once I did that, I changed the blend mode to screen, so just the lights are visible, and there I reduced the opacity right down to something like this. Then I also used my brush tool now to make the text layer more visible, this text layer here more visible. I used my brush tool and I picked a brown color from the background like that, and increase the size of my brush, and I dabbed here like this, so this area is a little darker like that. Yeah, so you can actually see this text there more clearly. So I may want to add a mask to it and just do some slight adjustments and reduce. So you want to click a little far from it so the transition is not too hard. So just click around like this so the transition blends well with the other background that existed before. So I'll just zoom in again like this. Now I'll bring in the other lights which I used. Oops, sorry, I think it was this one. So just drag and drop into my composition like that, and what I did was change the blend mode to screen, and when it was changed to screen, I had to cut out. I maxed it up, so I created a mask on it like this. I use my brush to black, I reduce the size like this, and I painted out the unwanted areas. Just painted out this area like this. Yeah, and I allowed just the light. Okay, once that was done, I used Control T. I rotated it like this, so this position, and I brought the lights here, somewhere here like that, and Control J to create a copy, and I brought it here. Now I reduce the opacity of the light to something like this, and reduce the opacity of the other one to something like this, not so much. And to make it blend better, I'm just going to add another layer here. Use my brush to select this bright color. Now just increase the size of my brush like this, and I dab here like that, and reduce the opacity a little, like that. Okay, so once that was done, the next thing I had to do was to bring in these images. So I brought in the images by just dragging and dropping them. So the next thing I did was to make sure that before I begin my color grading, this is very important. Before color grading, make sure that all the images have the same level of exposure. You see, the guy's face here is dark, the woman's face is bright, the main minister's face is seemingly bright, this is bright, and this is very bright. So you want to bring all of them to the same level before you begin to apply your colors to them. If not, they are not going to work well. So I'm going to begin with this guy's own image, and what I'm going to do there is to add a levels adjustment layer. Once that levels adjustment layer is added, what I'm going to do now is to increase the brightness like this. So bring this down, just bring this down to this point, and make sure it's clipped on him. If you look now, you see his face is almost getting the same brightness as this one. So I'm just going to increase it a little further, something like this. So they are now around the same level. So I'll go now to the next image, the image of this lady. Oops, navigate to it. Okay, this is it. I'm going to add a levels adjustment layer also, and bring this slider down so it's almost as bright as that of the guy, and I'll mask it out like that. I think something around this point is okay. Then I think this one is already bright. I may want to drop her own brightness a little, so I'll just add a levels adjustment layer here. Just adjust it a little like that and clip it. And then for this one, I think this is it. Levels. Okay. Okay, I'll just leave it at this level like this, and then now I'm going to be adding color grading to everything. So before I do that, I'll just add my colors individually. So I'm going to be using this one as a reference, since her own color is slightly difficult to modify into having these other ones. So I'm going to use this one as a reference image, and now I'm going to add a curves adjustment layer. So looking at her image, you see that there is a lot of yellow going on and red. So I'll clip this on. So I've added this curves layer on this layer of this border here. So I'm going to go now to my blue layer, and the opposite of blue is yellow. So if I take this curve up like this, I'm adding blue. If I bring it down, I'm adding yellow. So I'm just going to bring this down to about this position like this, and I'm going to go to my red layers and I'll boost the red a little, something like this. You now see they're almost around the same environment now. And for that one, I'll just click out. I'll come to the next image, this image. I'm going to add curves adjustment layer there, and then I'll go to my blues, add the yellows like this, reduce it to this level, and add my reds, something like this. Now see they're almost in the same environment. Step this down a little, and maybe I go to the general RGB layer and I make it a little brighter like that. Okay, then I will now come to the main minister, and I'm going to add levels adjustment layer and bring this down a little like this to give him a little more brightness. And now make sure it's clipped just under his layer, and now you add a curves adjustment layer. Let's begin by adding our yellows as usual. You add the yellow. I think this level of yellow is okay. Go to your reds and increase the reds, something like this. Make sure it's clipped, so just his layer is being adjusted, so that the effect applies just to that his layer. Then we come to this other lazy here. You add your curves adjustment layer, and here you want to add yellow, so we just add the yellow like that. We might not add red here, we might instead subtract the reds a little by pulling down this slider like this. And also go back to the RGB layer and we pull down the slider so our face is not too bright. Okay, I think, yeah, the idea is to get all of them around the same level, and we want to increase the contrast of these two so that they have the same kind of contrast like this other. So just come back here. Where's my levels for this? I'll just select my levels, increase, move the slider to the right, so like that. And I think all of them now are almost in the same atmosphere. So I'm just going to select all these layers, all of them like this. I select all of them. I'm going to create a group for them like this. Once I group that, I call this pictures, and immediately I'll convert it to a smart object so they stay together. Ctrl C. So I'll bring them down like this and increase the size, something like this. Okay, I think the yellow is a little too strong on her face, so right now I might not be able to correct that since I've already converted to a smart object, but I can still go about it by adding a curves adjustment layer here, and I go to my green, and I just drop it like this. Okay, once that is dropped like that, I think everything now looks good together. Okay, now what I want to do is to go to camera raw filter, and I'll apply some general coloring to the image. So just going to wait for the filter to load. Okay, once this is loaded, I will come to the temperature. I'll increase the temperature like this, and then just do some slight adjustments here. Darken the shadows, increase the white a little, and add some texture and clarity. You don't want to overdo this. This a little, just sharpen it just a little like that, and now we are good to go. I think everything blends together. Okay, but I still see some green on her face, so I may want to duplicate this layer, click this on this, and I still clip this one like this, and on this layer I'll still drop the green. I'll still drop the greens a little like this. Okay, once I do that, I'm going to invert the mask with Ctrl I, and I use my brush to reduce the size of my brush. I'll reduce the size of my brush like this. Now I use a white color, and I paint that effect just on her face. You now see how that yellow, or is it green color, has been taken away from her face. We are now good to go. Next thing now was just for me to add this location and all this other information. So before doing that, I'll create this Pastor Ivan Amatangana and his team. So I'm just going to right click, use a brush, choose this one, and select the brush, reduce the size like this, and I'm just going to reduce it something like this. Make sure I select the brown color from the background. But before doing that, make sure you're on a different layer and select that brown color. Now just click here like this once, move to the right a little, okay, Ctrl T. I want to rotate a little like this. Okay, I'm just going to type in Pastor Ivan. So all what is left now is just to add, for us to add the location and the social media information. So I'm going to speed up this part. Okay, so once that is done, all I need to do now is just to group everything, just reposition everything again like this, move this down slightly to this position and take this up a little, and you're good to go. I may want to increase the size of the main text up here. Just Control T and increase it just a little like this and position it here like that. So that is how I put this design together. If you enjoyed this video, do well to support me by liking, sharing this video with others, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, for I drop videos every single week. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video.